A team of volunteers is just back from a medical mission to help children.
They are all part of a Rochester organization called HUGS, which stands for Help Us Give Smiles. 13 Wham News went along so we could show you what they do.
HUGS stands for Help Us Give Smiles, and it's a name that works.
Es una gran bendición.
It's a blessing you come here from USA to help us.
HUGS missions bring life-changing surgery to children with cleft lips and palates and microtia, a birth defect marked by a severe deformity of the ear.
Especially with something as complicated as microtia, there's no one in this country who does it. And so unless, teams like ours or other teams come by, they just wouldn't get it.
Next, you have a 5-0 Chromic P-3.
Planning for this trip meant packing 19 hockey bags with medical equipment.
I'll take great care of him, don't worry.
And making friends with the airline to cut the cost of flying all of this and a team of 30 doctors, nurses, and other volunteers to Guatemala.
Buenos días a todos.
They work in this charity hospital in the town of Antigua. The team will serve patients who were identified long before the trip. Many of these patients come from faraway, remote villages. Oscar, anxious to get help for his son, arrived 5 days ahead of the HUGS team. Starting Sunday morning, families wait patiently to be called and are then moved through an assembly line of paperwork, picture-taking, and consults with the doctors.
And then there is the complex choreography of surgery day in a foreign country, in a hospital where you're not used to operating. 5 days in a row, 5 operating rooms all going at the same time, 79 patients in all, 79 lives changed forever.
For Kim Palumbo, who plans all the group's missions, getting to know the children makes it all worth it.
A typical mission takes about 6 to 8 months to plan, dealing with all the logistics, but this is my favorite part. Seeing them after they're all done and just spending time with them. I could do this every single day. This is my favorite.
HUGS also travels each year to Vietnam and Ecuador, and in 2019, will add a week in Peru and a second week here in Guatemala.
A typical mission for HUGS might cost $50,000, give or take, depending on the country. That is about the total cost of one microtia surgery in the United States. And on this mission, the HUGS team did 33 microtia surgeries and repaired more than 40 cleft lips and palates. Since 2003, HUGS has helped more than 1,500 children. There's more information about HUGS, Rochester-based, and founded here, and it can be found on 13wham.com.
And like she said in that story, the smiles at the end.
I got to tell you, when we got there that first day, I walked out into that courtyard and I saw all those families, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, the impact is clear.
Oh my gosh, it's very powerful, very overwhelming.
Story.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doug.
A group of volunteers, many of them from Rochester, just spent a week on a medical mission in Guatemala.
And we went along to see how the Rochester-based HUGS Foundation helps repair facial deformities for children there. Without their work, these kids would be bullied, ostracized, or even abandoned. But because of the HUGS team, including one doctor with an infectious laugh, these children have hope and reason to smile.
These doctors and nurses pay their own way to volunteer for a week of hard work in one of the world's poorest countries. And yet, I'm told, it's no sacrifice.
It's a benefit, I tell you. I'm not sacrificing. Don't kid yourself. I gain from this much more than I lose, no question about it.
And with that, Dr. Neil Goldman is speaking for pretty much every volunteer who's ever gone on a HUGS mission.
It always feels busy when you leave, but as soon as you get here, you reorient your priorities and just focus on the purpose and the reason why you're here. And then you, as soon as the last day comes, you say, I'm coming back.
On one of the trips, I had this little girl all of a sudden look up to me and say, you've made my dreams come true. And it just makes you pause.
It's the reason why I wanted to be a nurse, is to be able to come and do these, to do a medical mission.
You ask any of the doctors, the nurses, the other volunteers why they come on these mission trips, and they give lots of explanations, but it all comes down to the children.
Dr. Bill Koenig, a surgeon from Rochester, says these missions remind him of how lucky we are.
As Americans, you're born in the right country. As a human, I was born without any medical problems, no birth defects. As a child, I had great parents who taught me and raised me, and so you got to give it back because not everyone is that lucky. So I think when you're lucky, you got to share it.
Intense, exciting, busy, but very fulfilling.
It is always very humbling, and I've never left thinking, why did I do that?
And the fact that Hugs comes back every year and follows up makes a big difference for the patients and the volunteers.
This is the right way to do it. Come in, commit to a country, come in, come back, make relationships.
These families don't know who we are. They don't know that I know what I'm doing or that I take care of this back in Rochester. To them, they just instill an amazing amount of trust, and they hand us their most precious things, which are their babies, and they allow us to take care of them.
We get to know the families. I recognize them. I look forward to seeing them. They are my Facebook buddies. It's kind of funny, actually. I get messages from them. Like, it's the world is becoming smaller every year.
When the mission's over, there is both fatigue and renewal.
Tired. But these are the best weeks. These are the best weeks of my year. And I come back from these things and I feel like I can do more work at home than I normally can, and definitely nothing bothers me at home. It's really kind of gives me that spark of energy.
A spark that's brought Dr. Goldman back for 14 missions. And like so many members of this team, he will be back again.
I had to keep him in as much as I could. That laugh just makes me laugh, but he is such an important member of the team. Tomorrow on 13 WHAM News, the surgery days, how the team changes the lives of these children.
You know, it does remind you that we have won the lottery of life to be in this country, and to give back is so important.
And I think for these surgeons and nurses, and they go to these countries, Vietnam, Ecuador, and Guatemala, and they get the reminder and the renewal every time they go.
Yeah, I give them a lot of credit for doing it on their own time and their own dollar.
More tomorrow.